From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, it's a Renegade Express. Questions about linebacker recruiting, virtual reality headsets, and getting it wrong. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. That's in Tallahassee, Florida. Weekdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., $8.99 for some great, great lunch, everybody. On Wednesdays, 5-piece chicken wings and French fries, only $8.99. Again, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Don't forget, tomorrow on Thursday, it is bingo night at the CP. Go check them out. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source. Thumbs up, 5-star reviews, ratings, all that stuff. Go to the site, check out all the great work from Corey, Ira. Michael Langston's got you covered. We'll have a live recruiting chat later tonight at 6 p.m., so what off-season? What dead period? We're out here working for you. And we'll be speaking to Jordan Travis and Trey Benson later today, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Corey?
That's right, buddy. You'll get – hey, you're an old friend of Jordan Travis at this point.
Yeah, BFFs, man.
I think that's 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning. We'll be speaking to those two gentlemen.
Oh,
and then, be writing about it afterwards.
A little earlier than I was expecting. Wasn't planning for that early. All right. Thanks for letting me know, though, Corey. I'll have to take my 8-hour sleep so that I can get knocked out and, sleep on a regularly sort of scheduled slot there. Because, man, I'm bad, Corey. Like, I don't play the violin for me, everybody, obviously. But, man, if I know I've got to wake up before, 9 a.m., actually, I know that's dramatic. If I got to wake up before 8 a.m., then I have bad anxiety and I can't sleep. Like, I'll just yell at myself in my head the whole time. Like, just shut up, go to bed. Shut up, go to bed. Why are you singing that song in your head right now? Why is that song playing? Stop, go to bed.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a problem. All right.
Well, yeah, but you don't – I mean, this is 10 a.m.
I know,
you don't have to wake up before 9. You live 3 miles from campus.
I got to get breakfast, though, man. Big dog's got to get breakfast in them. I'm not like you guys.
You don't have to. I feel like the breakfast isn't as important as not having anxiety. You could tell yourself, you know what? I'll whip up some breakfast when I get home. Or I'll just eat a protein bar for breakfast today, but I get to sleep in, and I'm not going to be all weird when I'm trying to go to sleep.
I don't know if it's that 30 minutes will matter, but I don't know. Anyway, but hey, thanks for letting me vent about it, Corey. I appreciate it, man.
You got it.
Working through it together. We spoke to Micah Posey yesterday. Check it out, the new pitching coach for Florida State. Good stuff in there. Check out the interview. Got the whole thing up on our website. And with that, let's segue into the Renegade Express mailbag, Corey Clark. First question, Noel Boyo 2, wake up. How long do y'all think it will be before Florida State makes it back to Omaha? 2 more years?
11 months.
Ooh, I like it. All right, sold. Next question.
Yeah, no, look, man, I mean, we were talking about this on headlines. How long until Florida State looks like that LSU or Florida team?
Oh, gosh.
Maybe never. I mean, those two teams are they're just preposterous.
Yeah.
LSU's got the top 2 picks in the draft probably. Florida's got the 3rd. Florida's got this freak that leads the nation in home runs and also throws 98 on the mound. Their shortstop is good. I mean, their number 2 and number 1 pitchers are awesome. Like
the guy that was batting 7th in their lineup hit 6 dingers or something.
He set a record for the most home runs in a College World Series, and he's their 7th hitter.
Yeah.
Their leadoff hitter on a team that was 1 win away from a national literally 1 run away, honestly, from a national championship. He was supposed to be in high school this year. He's a true freshman that batted lead. I mean, they are loaded with dudes. I don't know that Florida State can get to there again. But that doesn't mean you can't make a run to Omaha or even a run in Omaha once you get there. You can get pieces, and if you get a couple of really good starting pitchers, you can do anything. You can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
So that being said, it's hard to know. Looking at this roster now, it's not close. But what roster is? It's not close to what we saw in the championship series. But that doesn't mean you can't get hot and get to Omaha. Wasn't Oral Roberts just in Omaha?
Correct, yeah.
You've got more talent than Oral Roberts, or you will this year. So get hot at the right time. You can, number one, first things first, get in the tournament. and then get hot at the right time. And yeah, man, you can go to Omaha. The point of all this rambling answer is it's really hard to predict. It's really hard. Florida is absolutely loaded, and they almost didn't get out of their regional, right?
Yeah, Texas Tech took them out early on. Yeah, they got the losers bracket.
You know, it's such a goofy sport that way. But yeah, I don't see any reason why they couldn't be challenging. They couldn't be in the tournament. And once you get in the tournament and you're Florida State, you got a chance. You've got a chance. So could be next year, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll affect their ability to get to Omaha, but it does appear that there are certain programs out there that are very well heeled when it comes to NIL to keep their aspirations at the absolute highest level. And the problem, I mean, if LSU and Florida get into these crazy spending sprees, that locks up 2 teams, and there's still 6 other tickets out there to get to Omaha, but.
Well, and again, it doesn't lock it up, though. Like, just because you got a great roster, that's the stupidity.
Look at Tennessee last year, right?
Of baseball. Right. Is that just because you have an incredible roster doesn't mean you're going to win the right games and get to Omaha. I mean, yeah, Tennessee last year, I think, didn't Ole Miss or somebody have an incredible – Arkansas maybe lost in their super regional, and they were the number 1 team in the country 2 years ago.
Yep.
So, I mean, crazy stuff happens in this goofy sport. You win a game by 20 runs, you lose a game by 20 runs within a span of 24 hours. That's just, again, that's the stupidity and the beauty of baseball. But your margin for error is much more thin when you don't have major league draft picks all over your roster like these SEC teams do.
Yeah, Mississippi State hasn't made it back to the tournament since they won it all. They didn't even make it to the SEC tournament this past year. I think same with Ole Miss. And Ole Miss won it all last year. And the year before that was Mississippi State. And both those teams are in really hard times. So it's crazy. But they're on the right path. Hopefully, they attacked what they thought were some needs in the portal, and I'm sure they're not done. Next question, Rusty_by_God_Shackelford. Any scoop on who will replace Rich Wallace on the diamond? It's been extremely quiet. Could it be an assistant or a GA that's still in Omaha? This is an interesting one because, this offense, it's links, right? Corey, I mean, I think even Mike Capozzi said that when we spoke to him on Tuesday morning that, going up against Link Jarrett teams is so annoying because they have such a great approach at the plate and they just figure out ways to grind out at-bats and scrape across runs. So, I do wonder, how big of a splash hire it really needs to be, or this is more kind of like a recruiting kind of role, who's got the right eye and can, scout out guys to bring them to Tallahassee. But I haven't heard any names. I bet Kendall Rogers will probably be the one that breaks this, but, no reason to think that he's not going to find a right fit. But this offense is going to ride and die on Link's calls. So
what if they get Buster Posey to be the hitting coach / recruiting coordinator?
I'm so disappointed I didn't ask him about, what was it like growing up with Buster as a little brother, as your little brother?
Just to get a joke out of him?
Yeah.
That would have been and I said, if I'm Florida State, or if you're listening to this show, go to Mike Capozzi's Wikipedia page if he has one, and just say that he's Buster's older brother. I mean, the guys that he's recruiting are probably gonna just do a basic research. They're not gonna go dive into this guy's past. They'll read the Wikipedia. They want to know if he's related to Buster, and just go on his Wikipedia and lie. People lie on the internet. I've heard about it. So just go lie and say that he's Buster's brother, and now Buster is still a part of the Florida State family. But yeah, with college baseball too, you wonder how important it is. I mean, I'm sure a great hitting coach is like a great pitching coach. They matter. But getting the guys on campus is by far the most important part of that job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain level of skill and talent that all the guys that are at Florida State have. And yes, you'd want like an incredible hitting coach, a Charlie Manuel, Charlie Lau, if you want to go old school, to George Brett's hitting coach from 50 years ago. But you need to get a guy that's going to be a really good recruiting coordinator to work with Link and get these guys on campus. That, to me, don't you think that's the number one role of that position?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would imagine, I don't know, man, 10 days, if you gave me 9.5 on the over-under, I would take the under in terms of when they'll have that role filled. I mean,
absolutely. I think it would be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's announced by the end of this week. I mean, you have to hit the ground running, and you have to go get. I'm sure he already knows who it is or has a really good idea who it's going to be. They just have not announced it publicly yet.
Yeah. All right, moving along. Let's go to Dalvinism. Wake up! I am curious to know, what is the FSU team you were most wrong about compared to preseason expectations? Either good or bad way. I would say 2017, since we were a top 5 team heading in, but I feel like that almost doesn't count because of the Francois injury. Interested to know what your answers would be. 13's there. 13 I was not expecting. All-time team. 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was like, we're back, man. We're going to be fine. So I bricked all those. In recency, though, I really thought they were going to be all right in 2020. I know they didn't have a full spring. They didn't have full hands-on approach leading up to the preseason. But I just thought that they had upgraded at every position in terms of coaches. They had a full coaching staff intact and just felt like his approach was going to be taken quickly. I just thought all this is going to sink in really fast. It was going to be kind of overnightish, Mel Tucker and, Lane Kiffin and Dave Aranda, the way they work things out. So 2020, for them to be 3-6, I thought they were gonna be fine, man. I was very optimistic about how things were gonna change quickly. I just had to be a little bit more patient. So I'll say 2020.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for that. Not that I've been right the whole time. I would think probably 2002. Because we were led to believe that 2001 was a blip, and that you did have a ton of talent coming back. You had Anquan coming back after missing a year. There were some good things you saw in 01, even though it was a step back from the maybe I guess 01. Because when you're a Florida State fan from my whole life, but from 87 to 2000, it did not matter if you lost a quarterback or if you lost a bunch of talent. You legitimately reloaded. And that's just the way it was. And, Chris Ricks is young, but, man, he's a Florida State quarterback. He's going to be good. And so 01 would probably be the one I was most wrong about, and that started a decade of despair. But, yeah, because you assumed – I remember leaving – I think I've told this story before, and I apologize. No. Leaving the Oklahoma game after they lost 13-2, and that was ridiculous. And we knew that the next year's championship game was in the Rose Bowl. And my dad being so excited because he'd never been to the Rose Bowl. And just assuming, because Florida State was in the championship game every year back then, that, next year we get to go to Pasadena. That'll be a fun trip. We'll leave right after Christmas, whatever it was. And then obviously they did not come close to playing in the national championship game that year. It did not come close really to playing in one for another 11 or 12 years. So I guess 01 would be the one, because I just thought it was going to go on forever. Yeah. I didn't think they would bump their head and fall down like they did.
Hey, I'll be honest, last year too, I thought 7 wins, 8 maybe. So for them to pull off 10, I definitely bricked on that one. So, but glad I did. Good question, Dalvinism. We'll go to our recruiting portion of the show. 3 questions here, different guys. So I don't want to bundle them all. Let's kind of go back to back to back, but maybe be a little bit more economic in how we discuss it. Our guy Bakari, a.k.a. Big B7034, wake up. Morning, fellas. Linebackers, recruiting, let's talk. FSU's approach to that position. It seems to me that nationally you have probably 4 to 5 guys every cycle. Could the reason we don't seem to land any of those top-end high school guys be the product on the field the past few years? Subpar recruiting approach on the coach's part, a combination, something else? Seems to me they're looking for hidden gems, hoping to develop them. What are your thoughts? As always, take your vitamin energy, eat at the corner pocket, and make some money with my bookie. Go Noles. My man crushed it. Attaboy. Coach, you want to take a stab at this one, Corey?
Yeah, look, it's probably a combination of all of it. I would think, number one, it's a defense that doesn't, I know the offense is built for playmakers. I don't know that I would say this defense is built for linebackers. There's a lot of times there's only 2 on the field. There's times where Tatum Bethune, who would be your leading tackler if he's 100% healthy, comes off the field on 3rd downs. They just do a lot of different stuff. And most defenses are going that route, honestly. Where, I don't know, man. I'm almost to the point where linebacker might be the most unimportant position left. A run-stopping linebacker, I should say, because of where the game is. And I'm not saying it's not important, but, having an elite cornerback is probably more important. Having an elite defensive end is more important. Having an elite defensive tackle or an elite safety is probably all more important than going and getting a linebacker. That said, you still want to go get the best. Is the Perkins kid at LSU, is he considered a linebacker? I guess.
Yeah.
He's a rush linebacker, though.
Yes.
Like, he made his bones not covering dudes in the flat nearly as much as strip sacking the quarterback.
Yeah.
So if that's the kind of linebacker you're going to want to go get, maybe somebody in a 3-4 scheme, then yeah, but Florida State doesn't play that, and they don't play a lot of linebackers. So it's not. I get it. I get that it's been a source of frustration for years at this school, and it does not look like they're going to go and get some 5-star super duper linebacker prospects. I understand that, but if you're gonna just be okay at a position or rely more on the portal, that seems like a pretty good one, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I do think, again, to your point, Bakari, like there really are only 4 to 5 top-end linebackers out there every cycle. And I do think, like, once Florida State can get back into the playoff conversations, national championship, then you can maybe start elbowing your way into those conversations. But, man, Harold Perkins is from Louisiana. Those guys rarely leave. You know, Kirby is such an appealing guy to play for if you're a defensive player. Same thing with Nick Saban. You know, there's 4 or 5 guys every single cycle, and there's, like, the same 3-4 coaches that, you know, seem to lure these guys in, so it's tough to kind of knock them off. I don't necessarily think like they're doing something wrong. I mean, I think the whole hidden gems thing is by necessity. No coach wants hidden gems. They want to get, you know, I don't want to say Travis Hunter. Whose tape can you just look at right now? Charles Lester, Luke Kromenhoek. You want guys that you can just put the tape on. You're like, all right, that works. So they're just making the best out of the situation right now.
Here's what's crazy, though, Aslan, because I just looked up On3's ranking for linebackers.
Yep.
So far, right now, as we sit here, remember, it's June, so nothing is signed. Florida has a commitment from the number 4 linebacker in the country, the number 5 linebacker in the country, the number 7 linebacker in the country, and the number 9 linebacker in the country.
Well, that's not cool. They all can't stick. They all can't stick.
They're in on the 10th best linebacker in the country. So, I mean, they have 4 of the top 9 linebackers in the country, according to On3. And then the number 6 linebacker in the country is a kid from Columbus in Miami that's committed to Louisville. So I take back everything I said 3 minutes ago. What's going on? Why are all these kids going to Florida and not Florida State? Let's go. Let's get one of them at least. For heavens to Betsy. That's crazy.
Let's keep it recruiting. Norvell to the Natty. Wake up. What's up, Corey and Aslan? Didn't realize the word natty bothered you so much. If I knew the word natty bothered you, I'd stop using natty and use some other term than natty instead. Anyways.
He's talking to you. He's talking to you right there.
Yeah, I don't like it. Anyways, what is our upcoming recruiting class? Why does it seem so unbalanced? There doesn't seem to be nearly as many recruits up front as I had hoped for. This is compounded by the fact we seem to have a bajillion wide receiver commits and prospects still on the board. Why such an unbalanced class? Thanks for all that you do, and go Noles.
He says up front, he's talking about offensive linemen.
I think defensive linemen. I think we all realize, I mean, it's been a while since they've got a elite, especially interior defensive lineman. So, and, there's some, people will always, come to Odell's defense, and people criticize Odell. So it's a weird give and take, but yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is everybody wants these high-rated prospects, right? And there's a lot of high-rated receivers out there in this cycle, and that's the way it's going right now because the way teams play football. And Florida State's in the mix on all these guys. But then it's like, well, we got too many of them in the mix. Why don't we have more defensive tackles, which you can do both of these. I get it. We'll see what's going to happen here like in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Because a lot of these kids sound like they're going to be making announcements, like they've announced that they're going to commit on the 4th of July. I think the tight end that's probably going to UCF now is going to commit on July 1st, so maybe that cleans up some of the board for Florida State. So let's see what it looks like towards the end of July in terms of where guys have committed and done their announcements, and then where they'll pivot. But yeah, it's interesting because when we do these recruiting chats, Corey, with Langston, like, people ask about defensive lineman, interior, and I'll pull up their bio, and I'm just like, man, they're they're not in the mix with a lot of like elite top end guys. So maybe they're at the point, Corey. Maybe the portal just a better way to. Maybe it's more of a crapshoot to get a kid out of high school. Maybe they feel that the portal is just going to be a very reliable component of their mix moving forward.
Well, and I know that's not fun, and it's especially for the recruitniks out there, and it's not a fun way to spend the summer because I mean I'm just thinking about it because we've gotten so many questions about Florida State's recruiting, and nobody used to really care that much in June.
Right.
But the world of recruiting is sped up so much that a lot of it does take place in the spring and summer, and then the fall is not that many kids out there that are uncommitted anymore. It used to be back in the day. Out of the top 100, 78 of them would be uncommitted in October. But now that's clearly not the case. And then, I think so. I think there is a chance, man. And I haven't talked to him. But, I was going to ask you. So if I'm running a football team like a Florida State that doesn't necessarily have maybe the money to spend on a big-time defensive line recruit, because you don't want to waste it if they don't pan out. There is a chance, and I get it. I get that the recruitniks still want to be that into recruiting and be excited about recruiting. Braden Fisk is a bigger deal for the 2023 football team than signing a 5-star kid last year out of Texas. It just is. He just is. And that's not fun. It doesn't help with recruiting rankings, but Braden Fisk and Darrell Jackson, waiver, assuming a waiver comes, waiver assumed, that's a bigger deal than signing any 2 5-star defensive tackles in the country for this upcoming season, right?
Yeah.
So maybe as a Florida State, when you're thinking about how to balance the spreadsheet and get the best players available from season to season, maybe you're like, we don't take the guys that have to develop 3 years before they can play or 2 years before they can really play. Maybe Maybe we don't go all in on those guys. Maybe we don't offer the money that other schools can offer because we can't afford to make a mistake with that kind of money. So we save it for dudes that have proven themselves as 20-year-old men, 21-year-old men that we know that will come in and help immediately, as opposed to an 18-year-old that's been beating up on a bunch of other teenagers. And we don't know if he'll actually turn into Timmy Jernigan or if he'll turn into, I'm not going to name a bad defensive lineman that was here, a bust, but you don't know. I think maybe they just want to take the guesswork out of it more. And I don't know, man. Do you think defensive line and offensive line are the two ones that have the most guesswork when it comes to how they're going to pan out in college?
Well, offensive line for sure.
And
I would think defensive line's got to be up there as well. I mean, quarterback obviously is in the mix too there, but because it's such a physical position, man. And why chance it, man? Because
there are some freaks obviously that know, okay, that guy's going to be incredible as a college football player, but a lot of them don't pan out, and maybe you wait to spend the kind of 5-star money you need to spend. And I hate to talk like this, folks, but it's 2023. Get used to it. To spend the money you need to spend on an unproven commodity. When in November and December of next year, there will be proven commodities everywhere that will help you immediately, and you won't have to wait.
And remember, they got Daniel Lyons, who was kind of maybe a little bit under the radar, and maybe this is the way it is to your point, Corey. Like, you go get a Darrell Jackson, you go get a Fabian Levitt, you go get a Braden Fisk, and then you can recruit a guy like Daniel Lyons, and you can be patient with him, and you can develop and have good expectations. I mean, they had the kid whose name escapes me from Alabama that ended up committing to Auburn, the defensive end. Like, they really, really like that kid. And they lost him to Auburn. Like, Hugh Freeze comes in last minute, throws the world at him. It's one of those tough sort of deals. So they're not losing anybody by, virtue of not trying or anything. It's just been some weird circumstances. But they're in the mix. D.D. Holmes is a guy from Gonzaga Prep in D.C. that was on campus on an official visit. He's listed as a defensive end. Who knows how much he's going to grow. L.J. McCrae's a guy that's an elite defensive end. So, I know we're not talking about maybe tackles per se, but they're in the mix for some guys. And again, July is going to kind of be decision date for a lot of these top end guys. So
I don't want people to get the wrong idea that it's sour grapes, or that they wouldn't want a 5-star defensive tackle even if he was interested. Screw those guys. I'm just saying that it might be a philosophy on who they the types of players like Charles Lester, let's say, if they get Charles Lester, who's a 5-star DB from Sarasota, maybe they think that's more. It's not as much projection; it's more of a certainty that he's going to be really good. So they put a lot more eggs in that basket than they do a 4-star defensive lineman that would help their recruiting rankings, but might not help their football team for a year or 2 or 3 or ever. And they'd rather, when it comes to the trenches, spend their money on proven commodities.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong. It kind of seems that's what they're doing, but I could be wrong. If they had the Justin Scott kid that's apparently going to maybe commit to Miami, or David Stone, like these 5-star super duper dudes, David Stone from IMG, if they had those guys and they were really interested, then yeah, they'd probably be over the moon to get commitments from them. But maybe they don't pursue them as hard as, I don't know.
Last one from the recruiting tree. It's our guy down in Naples, Mark. Wake up. As you guys know, I'm usually glass half full when it comes to Florida State football, but I'm a little bit down on recruiting at the moment. Just had a huge weekend with elite prospects on campus, and as of you guys recording this, I don't think we got a single commit. That is true. It's not like 12 months ago when most recruits wanted to wait and see for product. They now know we're going to be really good, possibly great, and we also have the Battle's End stepping up. Do you think the active recruiters on our staff are just falling short on closing the deal with the big fish, or is it simply too early to reach that conclusion? I will say it's super annoying to see the Gators so high in the recruiting rankings when our product on the field is projected to be much better than theirs. Well, not even projected. I mean, the product on the field last year was much better, so we got that. But, hey, at least we're awesome in the portal. Go Noles. Appreciate you guys.
And that's not, Mark, you're the best, you know that. And that's not an at least, that shouldn't be just like a dismissive at least. The portal's enormous.
Yes.
The portal has changed college football, and it's certainly changed Florida State. And if you're beating the brakes off teams in the transfer portal, you're probably going to beat them on the football field. That's just the reality of it. And, again, the way this sport works now, it's awesome that Florida has 4 of the top 9 linebacker commitments in the country right now. How many of those 4 are going to be on Florida's roster in 2025?
Yeah.
Probably not all 4. 1 or 2 of them might be on your roster. You just don't know. You can't predict it. So I get the angst with the recruiting, and I get that people are, I don't know if angry, but frustrated that they're not seeing more fruits falling from the trees after a great official visit weekend. And I just think it's way too early to panic. In fact, I think I've reached the point, maybe it's because of my age or because of the landscape of this sport, where if they finish 14th or 16th in recruiting, I'm not going to panic because the portal will probably bump them up into the top 10, just like it did this past year.
Yeah.
There weren't too many teams that there weren't too many programs in the country that made their team so appreciably better like Florida State did in the offseason. And I'm not talking about what they did in recruiting. The portal is here to stay. It's a big deal. And, I think you want to accentuate it. You want to combine the two. That's how you probably win national championships. But I also think it's June.
Yeah.
And as we've seen, it'd be awesome to get a commitment, but the signatures are what matter. And the signatures don't come until December. So that's when you start panicking or get really frustrated, in my opinion. If you see in December, if Florida State, after back-to-back 10-win seasons, has only signed, I don't know, the 17th or 18th best class in the country, I would understand the angst there. Legitimately, I would.
Yeah, I am kind of curious because, there might just be a sort of way they go about doing business. And I don't want to say business because I don't mean in that context. I just mean, I think Florida's desperate, man. Florida's in a really bad place right now. They are offering everything, playing time. What number do you want? Whether it's jersey or on a check. I don't think Florida State is in that position. I don't think they have coaches that recruit like that. They don't have guys that do the hard sell, that put the hard pressure on guys. That said, though, but when they target a transfer, man, they close the deal so fast because I think that is part of the way they just go about handling themselves and presenting this program. Hey, this is what we can offer. This is what these guys can offer. This is what Florida State is. Come on down. And it just seems to work out really well. But when you're dealing with a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid who hasn't gone through the process, likes playing the game a little bit, there are these other staffs out there that are dangling carrots and giving them maybe a little bit more attention or doing this and that and the other. So there might be something about the way the staff is just kind of they're their DNA that doesn't maybe mesh well at this point of the recruiting cycle, closing the deal. But again, I think in the next 2 weeks, when some of these guys I think are going to be committing, they're on the hook with Jonathan Daniels out of Pensacola. He's a 5-star on On3, but he's a consensus 4-star offensive lineman. I know he's not a defensive lineman or a linebacker, but man, they're in the mix for a lot of good guys, and in July we'll start to pay the fruits of that labor. So hang tight. I get it. Florida doesn't deserve to feel good about anything right now, and they're trying to. Don't give them the satisfaction of giving them credit for where they're at right now, because it doesn't matter.
Well, and to Aslan's point, I'm doing a story that maybe will be on the site before you guys listen to this, where I'm kind of going over how ridiculously experienced the Florida State roster is in terms of starts, and I'm comparing them to other teams on the schedule. And so, just for instance, let's not just say, this is a fact, Florida State has 602 starts on their college football Division I starts on their roster. So like what Kyle Morlock did at Albany, Shorter doesn't count. What Jared Verse did at Albany doesn't count. Just Division I starts. Florida State has 602 combined starts from their players, which is an absurd number. Florida, the University of Florida, has 241. You were talking about 360 more starts, that much more experience on the Florida State team than on the Florida team. So Florida has a bunch of playing time, a bunch of holes to offer, but in no way, shape, or form is the University of Florida's football program in better shape than Florida State's. And they could get the top 20 linebackers in the country. It wouldn't matter. Florida State is in a good space right now. They are in a good place. They need to take advantage of it with another big season here and then just keep the ball rolling. But they are in a really good spot. Florida is in what seems like a pretty substantial hole. And, they get all that money, but with that money, they have to play an enormously difficult schedule.
Yeah.
So good luck with all that, man.
VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is Warchant, BOGO, B-O-G-O. Vitamin Energy's Triple Action Immune Plus Energy Shot is America's #1 selling immune shot. Thanks, everybody out there for ordering that. The mango orange, or the tango orange. It's really good, everybody. You should shake it and take it. Promo code is Warchant, BOGO, B-O-G-O. Vitamin Energy led by Florida State Seminole alums, including an all-ACC performer on the oval, the track. They've got the sleep shot, which I'll be taking later on. The vitamin D 100% enhanced energy shot, super vitamin D. They got a fat burner shot, super vitamin mood energy shot, workout. We've told you about them all. Great flavors. Buy one, get one free when you use the promo code Warchant BOGO, B-O-G-O. Gluten-free, zero sugar, always non-GMO, made in America, always kosher. Shake it and take it, vitaminenergy.com. All right, I don't think we're going to go through all of these, Corey. I think we'll space them out so we can have another show tomorrow or maybe the day after, something on Friday. So if I've skipped over your question, don't worry. We'll get to them all. Also, Old Dad's and post a question. I'll read it first, I promise. I apparently forgot to read his question last time we did this, so I apologize profusely. Let's go to this fun one. I like this one. It's from our guy, Samurai Noel. Greetings, gentlemen, from the land of sushi and 7-Eleven fried rice. IYK. If you know, you know. I think that's what the kids say. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you find a mysterious package on your doorstep. Inside is a virtual reality headset and these instructions.
This headset will grant you the one-time only ability for 10 minutes to enter the mind of any current or former FSU head coach during any moment in any past game. You will have the ability to live out that moment, how it happened, from the coach's perspective as an observer, or take control and alter a call to forever change how that game happens in history.
What game or moment would it be? Happy Independence Day. Let's hope this is a football season full of fireworks as we march towards the playoff. Go Noles. I feel like I should have told you this before we started the show so you really could have had your juices going, Corey, and really brainstormed. I only read like the first half of the question. I'm like, which one do I want to observe? But I can actually take control and alter a call. Oh, man. I kind of want, I was going to say like 2015 Georgia Tech. Like I wonder what Jimbo
Just go ahead and punt it? Or take a knee.
Yeah, like or just to like see how he felt. Like, what did his blood pressure go to? Like, how did his heart rate elevate when the kick got blocked? Like, what did that feel like? I don't know. What do you got, Corey? Is there anything in recent memory, past memory that strikes you?
Well, see, like.
Well, what about, like, do you go for 2 against Miami in '87?
No, I don't do that, but I still don't go to that. No, I don't do that.
Okay.
I would have kicked the extra point, knowing what I know now, because they would have played for and won the national championship that year if they had tied Miami. I probably something. I mean, I'm old, man, so the '91, the final drive in '91. I'm not leaving it up to a walk-on kicker, although he'd had a good day. I've got a Heisman candidate at quarterback. There's still time left. You don't need to settle for what amounted to not a chip shot field goal. I would have kept throwing the ball into the end zone and tried to win the game that way. Knowing what I know now, I'm not necessarily blaming him at the time. Oh, also, they still won the game, but why are you kicking the game-winning field goal against Nebraska in the national championship game with like 18 seconds on the clock? Run it down to 1. And I stand in front of my bench before the kick and say, look how much time's left. If any of you dum-dums run on the field to celebrate, you're off the team. You're not going to be back on the bus. You don't even get to come to the locker room to celebrate. Stay your butts on the sideline so we don't get a 15-yard penalty and give Nebraska an actual chance to kick a game-winning field goal. But they won that game, so I'm not going to do that. I would probably go with 91. That whole final drive, there were a lot of head-scratchers, a lot of time wasted where they thought the clock had been stopped because they had run out of bounds, but it actually hadn't been, and it took 20 seconds for them to realize it, which then sped up the final thoughts in the final. Oh, it was mayhem. That's where I go back and change it. 91. They should have won that game against Miami, the first wide right, and they would have 4 national championships now instead of 3.
2019 Wake Forest. Like, don't trot. Just saying.
No, because who cares? And in the end, it got you Mike Norvell. So I wouldn't change a thing. I would have had Aguayo kick it right as soon as you got across the 50. Expedited that firing maybe a week earlier. Maybe, you know what? I go into Willie Taggart's brain. First quarter against Miami, and then I see what Hornibrook looks like, and I'm like, you know what? Do I have any other quarterbacks on this roster? Oh, Jordan Travis. Hey, Jordan, go. I know I don't think you can throw at all, clearly. Just take the snap and run around and try to make plays with your legs. It has to be better than Alex Hornibrook getting sacked 21 times. But then again, it expedited Mike Norvell being here. So I still take 91.
What about your Norvell in 2019 and you have him coach? You're like, I want to coach the bowl game. And then maybe he's around Jordan Travis enough in El Paso where he's like, all right, I like this kid. I'm going to build everything around him. And then maybe you're like, you don't go into 2020 starting James Blackman. And then things, are a little bit, maybe we're like a year ahead. Maybe we're coming off a national title right now.
I mean, but
we're a good place.
Watched that game, right? Like, he saw that James Blackman had 5 turnovers and was crying on the sidelines, legitimately crying. So I think he knew what he had or didn't have at quarterback.
Yeah.
And Jordan Travis did play some at quarterback in that game. But yes, maybe he sees him for a whole month of practice and how he game plans, and maybe has a better – I think the bigger mistake, honestly, because Jordan ended up playing the second or third game that year anyway and starting the rest of the way, was Milton.
Yeah, right.
You don't once the first quarter – if I could go into Mike Norvell's brain for any time, I was going to say don't throw the toss sweep to Trayshawn Ward, but they won that game too. Definitely don't throw the fade to Pittman. Don't even call that look.
Well,
don't even call that play.
How about this? Sorry. The right answer is Adam Fuller. Everybody back up. Week 2.
Yeah, but if Norvell, correct, but if Norvell knows in the first quarter, I'm going to play Jordan Travis this whole game instead of the fan favorite, it never comes down to that. Right. They would have been up by 2-3 scores and the game would have been over because they could not tackle Jordan Travis because they couldn't tackle him the year before. But it didn't work out that way. It's a good question, though.
It's a great question. What about, like, if you were plugged into Lonnie's brain, would you have started Cat Sandercock game 1 against Oklahoma?
I would have just tried to get in a fight with the Oklahoma team and see how many of their giants I could have gotten kicked out of the game.
Okay.
What else can you do? I mean, it does. You look, man, it's this or that. With that team, you got to try something. There's nothing really you could do other than, I don't know. You don't want them to get hurt. Like, you don't want to send a team to the hospital. But if there was a way you could have them all forfeit, set up something like that. That's the only thing I could do.
All right. Our guy, Island Chief, wake up. Aslan doing Aslan things out there in Thibodeau. Thanks for your effort in reporting. 2 questions. First, why didn't Travis throw? Secondly, next January, as we make our way through the boot, headed to Houston for our game, what player outside the top 10 are we most likely to be talking about as far as having exceeded expectations? On the first one, let's see if anybody on the beat asks him today. We're going to get him for an interview. Maybe somebody will ask him. If not, remind me. Maybe we can talk about it. Who's outside the top 10? Let me pull up the list.
You should add nothing to be worried about as far as like injury.
Right, correct.
A shoulder issue or anything that you might be worried about. Nothing like that. Or a knee. It wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, nothing orthopedic.
Right.
Let's see. Who's outside the top 10? I got anxiety kind of about this one a little bit. Like, maybe Bless Harris. Like, the next time we talk to Mike Norvell, I think within the first 3 questions, a question about Robert Scott's going to have to be asked because he's, in some of our books, like your projected starting left tackle. Not that he's irreplaceable, but you kind of want to know what's going on there. So maybe like a Bless Harris turns out to be a really good stalwart on your successful offensive line. That's like one that kind of stands out to me here, Corey. But who's out? I mean, Gilbert Edmond, maybe he has a really super season. I'm trying to look at somebody. Maybe Toafili is just like a crazy. Maybe he's bigger, more explosive plays than Trey Benson has. Farmer and Fisk, 17 and 18. Fentrell Cypress, 19. I mean, who do you think is outside the top 10 that will be driving to Houston and lamenting, we missed on that one?
I think, where's Shaheem?
Shaheem is 12th.
So my mind immediately goes to him because there is a chance, there is a world where he is one of the best safeties in the country. Now, trust us, we haven't seen enough of that. But if he did become that, and Adam Fuller certainly thinks that's in there, and he's shown flashes of it, man. If he becomes like an all-ACC, all-American type safety, that is a absolute game changer and a season changer. So, but he's at 12, so I don't even think that should count. He's too close. I was going to go with Cypress.
Okay.
I think 19th. Cypress, if he 19 is far enough down the list where you're not expecting him to be like an all-American candidate. But if he is, if he replicates what he did last year for Virginia, it makes some game-saving plays and some game-changing plays. That could be a guy because you know what you got on the other side, and you like all the depth you have and all the experience you have. If you get a special type of season from a quarterback, not just solid, not just good, but special, then that could be a reason you're driving to Houston too. Okay. Those good answers. What about Fitz Magic? But yeah, what if he becomes just unbelievable?
Yeah. Or
what
Keltner.
If he's 21 out of 21?
Yeah. You're right. You're right. MyBookie.ag promo code WARCHANT gives you an instant cash deposit bonus for first-time members. All you got to do is go to MyBookie.ag, sign up, and use the promo code WARCHANT. Again, everything's out there now, mostly for college football. You can bet on conference winners as well as teams that make the playoffs. What about Southern Cal winning the Pac-12 at plus 175? I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah. Seems like easy money, doesn't it, Aslan?
Yeah, maybe too easy. Too easy. You folks check it out. Big menu of options. Again, Clemson plus 154, Florida State plus 163 when it comes to winning the ACC. That's all reputation. Can't imagine why Clemson would be thought of in higher regard than Florida State. Ohio State slightly ahead of Michigan as well in the Big Ten. They're all out there. Shoot, Conference USA, if you want to throw your hat in the ring on that one, feel free to. Everything out there, as well as the casino and live betting over at mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT where you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere at mybookie.ag. All right, let me see here. Let's go with the last one, and we shall reconvene and knock out the rest of it in a following day. Oh, yeah, I researched this one, so let's look it up. Oh, we got our guy Tennis Thump, all the way at the bottom. Wake up. My understanding is that nowadays coaches can actually do some coaching in the offseason compared to prior years when it was only the strength and conditioning team that could have contact. If it has changed, could you guys update us on what it is and what isn't allowed during the summer? Thanks as always for all you do. Drink your DeLuna, eat your register sausage, and patronize Zaxby's Go Noles. Mm-hmm. So I looked this up, Corey. I actually did some research for once because I remember this being a thing. I think Mike Norvell even told us, like, oh, yeah, they did a rule change. We can actually be a little bit involved. It used to be you couldn't even have footballs out there, Corey. You literally couldn't even have footballs. So they'd try to, I don't know if they'd have like a rugby ball, but they would use other oblong, game balls to kind of simplify these things. But now, as I try to scramble and find the screenshots I send our chat here, 2 hours a week, Corey, apparently. So we'll talk to Jordan and Trey later today, and this is a good question to ask them. But apparently coaches for 2 hours each week can supervise summer practices. Now, apparently not every team out there is doing this, Corey. Some coaches are still letting their players do all the PRP, the player run practices. Maybe some aren't using the full 2 hour allotment. But the caveat is that when the coaches are out there, no contact. So they can't have the sled out there. You can't even have a tackling dummy. So they pretty much just run stuff on. They can run defensive plays on air. They can run their offensive plays on air, but there can't be any contact. So that's what they're able to do now, as opposed to being left out in the dark. So sometimes the NCAA gets it right after 90 years of that probably being the rule that you couldn't be out there. So yeah, 2 hours a week. What would you do if you had 2 hours more a week to supervise and coach up Brady? Where would he be?
Oh man, he'd have been playing for LSU. He'd already skipped high school and been playing for LSU the other night. By the way, I said this on headlines, and I think it bears repeating. A lot of people listening to this show are going to be in Orlando for the season opener. You're going to see a lot of LSU fans. Go up and shake their hand.
Oh,
give them a pat on the back.
Yeah. Right.
The enemy of your enemy is your friend. LSU doing that to Florida on that stage when you guys were all pretty worried that Florida might bring home another national championship. That was. I'm sure that made everybody smile. That was a lot like the Nebraska-Florida championship football game from 2 decades ago. That was thoroughly enjoyable. And I hope I want you guys to be nice and cordial to LSU fans. You got nothing against LSU. There's no reason for Florida State to hate LSU. So go thank them. Give them a hug when you see them in Orlando.
Yeah, they flashed the stat on SportsCenter after Game 2 when Florida absolutely hammered LSU, and it was teams winning. I don't know if it was Game 2 of the championship series, but it was just teams that won at least one single game in the championship series by a margin of more than 9 runs. And every single one of them came back the next day and won. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. You just absolutely stole their soul, crushed it. You've got so much confidence. The ball probably looks like a beach ball. You're going to come back out the next day, 24, 27 hours later, just hammer them again. And then what? They jumped out to a 2-0 lead. That Wyatt Langford kid, that extremely talented kid they have, hits a 2-run home run. Yeah, there they go. Wrong.
Yeah.
So
LSU went out and scored 18 of the next 20 runs. So that was quite enjoyable, especially after what Florida did in Game 2. So sorry for O'Sullivan and his team that they lost. At that point, if you're going to lose in Game 3 of the championship series, you might as well have not even made the tournament. All I'm saying, right, Aslan? What's the difference? You're just first loser.
Imagine that fate plays out for us next year. We make it to Omaha, we make it to the championship series, 3rd game.
And lose to LSU, lose to Tommy Tanks.
Yeah, and the wheels just come off. That Jack Caglione kid, he got shelled. It was an inning and a quarter, inning and a third, 6 runs. So
well, he couldn't throw a strike, man.
Yeah,
he was a
poor kid. I felt terrible. Terrible, Corey.
Yeah,
really
me too.
Bad. All right, let's get out there and let's talk to players again. We'll talk to Trey Benson, Jordan Travis later on this morning. We'll have those interviews in their full entirety up on our YouTube channel, which is Warchant TV. It's totally free to subscribe. Highly recommend you go over and subscribe. Tap the bell, click the bell so your notifications get set. Hit the thumbs up as well. We'll do one more show. Let me summarize some of the stuff that we got from Jordan and Trey, as well as the remaining questions on the Renegade Express. Who knows, maybe there'll be a new baseball hire. Maybe there'll be a recruit that will commit. Speaking of recruit, don't forget, 6 p.m. later today, live recruiting chat with Michael Langston and myself. So do be on the lookout for all of that. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. He and Tom Lang, 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV. Again, our YouTube channel, totally free. Warchant.com, the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.